Welcome to today's edition of Quiet Storm Sessions. Today we will be talking about infidelity. Now, with infidelity, I could probably talk about this subject for hours upon hours because this is an area that I see a lot of in my practice. So, some of the things, one of the main things I want to just note is that with infidelity, partners in a relationship have to define what that looks like for them. Some people, it can be emotional connections. Some people, it can be watching porn. Some people, it can be actually having some form of intercourse with another person. Everybody has various different definitions of what infidelity might mean for them and what it means for their relationship. So I just want to make sure that's clear, that it's not anybody else's place to define what infidelity is, except for the two people or however many people are in that relationship. So, again, just starting with that. Infidelity is pretty common. If we really look at history, for men, it's always been somewhat of a normalized practice. They've always had brothels. There, in many cultures, they've had concubines, they've had all kinds of secondary relationships here and there, depending on where they're at. It is now becoming more normal for women because women have a different level of power where they're no longer just objects or pieces of property for the men. So now everyone has access to having extramarital or outside relationships. And some of the key things that can create space for infidelity is, for one, most people are not creating agreements in their relationship. So everyone, even when you hear vows, sometimes fidelity and commitment aren't necessarily in marital vows. So it's just so one thing from the very beginning, people aren't really talking about and addressing how do you protect your relationship if this is something that you don't want to have, if you don't want extramarital things, you don't want an open relationship. What are ways to safeguard that? Two of the key things that can create opportunities for affairs or outside relationships is, one, high opportunity and low risk. So people who travel a lot, they tend to have a lot of opportunities to be able to have infidelity and extramarital situations. So if you do have a partner, or if you are someone who travels a lot, you may want to try to figure out having some type of agreement. I think it's Billy Graham had a situation with his wife where he said he would never be alone in the same room with a woman. So that was his agreement to make sure he was protected, make sure his relationship was protected. Some people may think of that as extreme. It's something that you and your partner have to agree on together, and you have to figure out how to make sure you're protected, because regardless of how happy, how loving, how great your relationship is, infidelity can happen if you don't protect and safeguard your relationship. A lot of people there's one person to blame. Whoever had the affair, that's the person that's responsible for the issue. But the reality is, whenever I see people who have infidelity issues, it's more than just one person at fault. There's always multiple ways of looking at it. Infidelity, in my opinion, is a way, or any type of situation in many ways, can be a way to kind of highlight where there's cracks, or I don't want to say cracks, but areas of improvement within the relationship. So sometimes it can be one person may be overly controlling, one person may not be communicating well, one person may not be speaking the other person's love language, But regardless of what the reason is, there's many different reasons behind why someone may have an infidelity. And in the way I practice and the way I hope, or I try to tell other therapists to practice, is it's not my job to assign who is the perpetrator and who is the victim, because sometimes just because one person had the affair doesn't mean that that person's actually the only one guilty of being at fault within the relationship. Both people can take this as an opportunity to grow and strengthen themselves as individuals as well as in their partnership. Just another reminder, because I only have 30 seconds left. Some of the things to keep in mind in the healing process is that both partners need some form of compassion and grace while both of you are grieving. Some people are grieving the loss of that extramarital partner, if that's what they choose to do. Some people are grieving the loss of the relationship that they had. But again, just kind of keeping in, I'm going to go over just a little bit. But just keep in mind that compassion and grace are actually very important when it comes to getting over the infidelity situation. Sometimes this is a place where now you can fine tune your agreements, and also maybe create some more flexible and open agreements. Because the key is, in my opinion, I would rather people be able to have spaces where they can be vulnerable and be connected within their partnership versus creating spaces where people are doing don't ask, don't tell models. So, but if that's your model, that's fine. But I think when we think about relationships, your partner is like the main person that has your back. So being able to have a space where you can be vulnerable with that person, if you have ideas of being intimate with someone else, I think is important. The reality is we all are sexual beings and things happen. So again, being able to have a space with your partner where you can discuss and protect your relationship and protect yourself, because really infidelities can create a lot of other issues when it comes to having children, when it comes to having STIs, et cetera, that you just want to make sure you're doing in the safest way possible. So that is me. I went to 6 minutes, so sorry about that. So I hope you have a good rest of the day, and I hope to talk to you next time. Bye.